You think you know who I am. A footnote to a machine that was never built. My father was called mad, bad, and dangerous to know. My mentor was called the father of computers. I'm called the first programmer. But maybe I was something else. Maybe I still am.
Augusta Ada Byron was born in 1815, the only child of celebrated but scandalous poet Lord Byron with his wife Lady Annabella Milbank. Lord Byron knew his brief experiment with domesticity was a failure by the time Ada was born, and fled his family and country a few months later. To Lady Annabella, his hereditary poetic madness could only be to blame, and she set her shoulder to the wheel of raising her daughter in a world bereft of stories and wishes.
Imagination is a dangerous thing. You are your father's child. We must guard against that.
Lady Annabella was herself an accomplished mathematician. She had truly loved her erstwhile husband, and been determined to save him. Her failure ever weighed on her mind. She could not have known that her daughter saw numbers through the eyes of an artist. A series of childhood illnesses left Ada in abysmal physical health. Migraines frequently interrupted her studies, and a case of measles at 13 robbed her of her ability to walk for 2 years. Her mind, however, remained agile and free, and she studied the greats of history as eagerly as she devoured the latest scientific articles. By the time she was presented at court at 17, her reputation cast a long shadow before her.
Young Miss Byron, isn't it? Mary Somerville. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm a great admirer of your father's work, though I confess I don't follow most of it.
Nor I. I fear my father mustn't have been much of a poet, but I must yield to those with greater wisdom on the subject than I.
I see you don't lack for your father's wit and charm. I have someone you simply must meet. Have you followed the work of Mr. Charles Babbage?
It was a time of revolution in mechanical and scientific theory. Charles Babbage stood on the leading edge, having been commissioned by the British government to build his difference engine, a sophisticated computing machine which could calculate complex equations.
Excuse me, if the engine can calculate values, can it not also manipulate symbols?
You understand this?
I see it. I told them what I saw. They said I was dreaming. I was indeed. But sometimes dreams are instructions. You just need the machine.
Ada did not entirely escape the shadow of scandal while at court, being linked to several young men in succession, and even being implicated in a failed elopement in 1833. However, by July 1835, she was spared further reputational damage when she made a love match with William King, 1st Earl of Lovelace. Herself a descendant of the extinct barony line of Lovelace, Ada was styled Countess of Lovelace. Mindful of her duty, she spent the next 8 years having and raising her 3 children.
You're up late every night. With Babbage again?
With the future.
My dear, you know that I love you, but sometimes it feels as though you're speaking Martian.
In 1843, Ada was commissioned by Babbage to write a translation to English of an article about his analytical engine, written by an Italian scientist. Like her mentor Mary Somerville before her, she not only translated it to English, but also into plain language. Her notes exceeded the length of the main article by 3 times, but her most lasting contribution was Note G, in which she writes a series of instructions for calculating Bernoulli numbers, considered by many to be the first computer program. But they were more than numbers. She writes,
"The analytical engine weaves algebraic patterns, just as the jacquard loom weaves flowers and leaves. It could create music, patterns, even poetry."
But it doesn't exist. The government won't fund it.
"Why? Then we built it anyway. If not in brass, then in thought." "The engine does not think, per se, but it is a bridge from logic to art, a mirror of the human mind."
She's mad, just like her father.
she was the first to imagine general-purpose computing. Ada believed the analytical engine could be capable of composing music or creating art. She saw what no one else would for the next 100 years. She began gambling, believing mathematics could predict the unpredictable. Ada created an equation for predicting which horses would win, but it backfired spectacularly, and she was forced to go to her husband for help with her debts.
"You used me! You wanted a mouthpiece, not a partner."
You wanted to be more than you are.
"I already am."
All I wanted was for you to make something of yourself.
"I did." They built it, 100 years later. Machines that can think and feel. They used the patterns I left behind. I wasn't ahead of my time. I was simply out of sequence.
Ada Lovelace died in 1852 at the age of 36. She was largely forgotten until her notes were found by Alan Turing, who used them to build his bomb machine. Today she is remembered as the first programmer, but she was so much more. A visionary, a dreamer, the Enchantress of Numbers.